Welcome, good morning. I don't know how many of you were yesterday, but there were so many amazing insights from the panels yesterday. And I think this morning's talk will really take some of the learnings from yesterday and look to the future. So thanks for joining us. We're gonna kick it off with the mad scientist, Gary. He's gonna drop some science on what's happening in the cannabis market right now. If you haven't visited your booth, they have this amazing audience finder, which I'm sure I'll talk about, but it really it speaks to some of the pain points that everybody's having right now in navigating this huge consumer growth. But also, I downloaded their cannabis report yesterday, and every single page had so much great data on it. So I highly recommend reaching out to them to get some of their insights for your companies. So Gary, kick it off.
Thank you very much. Gary Allen from New Frontier Data. I don't know about the mad scientist. Actually, the mad scientist is sitting right there. John Kagia, most of you know him. So he's sitting in the front row to make sure I don't say anything stupid. But the topic, what's next? What's next in the cannabis industry? And we think, New Frontier Data, as Emily just said, she read our new consumer report. In New Frontier Data, we're really concentrating on the consumer. This market, we've been around for about 8 years, and we operate on multiple continents. We collect data from a couple hundred countries. The industry has gone through a very interesting metamorphosis over the last couple of years in maturity, and that is we built our products, we pre-rolled our joints, we made our first CBD tinctures, we put it out into the marketplace. We believed as a market that the acronym CBD or THC were really a marketing scheme, or they were going to somehow connect with the consumers. And what we're really finding is that as a CPG market, if we think about this as a true CPG market, which is what it is, understanding the consumers is going to be, that's the next kind of frontier. And that's why, as Emily said, we built this audience builder, and you can please stop by our booth. But we launched for this conference, we launched a retail suite inside of our Equilibria platform, really to try to help operators and investors, but operators, we're really focused on the retailers, try to teach them how to engage with consumers and who their consumers are by location. And it's not, we have a database of 430 million consumers, 167 million of them are probable cannabis and CBD consumers, 71 million of them buy CBD and or THC. So it's a very deep database. But unlike other CPG markets, we've added the cannabis persona, right? So we have our archetypes and our profiles, and so we're able to show great products, right? Great products that are here, represented here, and you can see out in the exhibit hall, amazing products that are being built and manufactured and packaged. The maturity and the clarity of message that's displayed here at LMCC really has matched the market, really shows where we are as a market. And so we decided that it was time for us to really try to unleash some of this data for the retailers, for the brand manufacturers, for the brands themselves, to help find exactly who the consumer is in their CBD or THC persona, where they are, how to engage with them, how much they buy, what what media do they enjoy to be, do they want to be emailed? Do they want to see you on TV? Do they want a radio show? And believe me, radio is still pretty high up there in the preferred media. And so New Frontier Data is really going to focus over the next couple of years on bringing this information to all brand manufacturers, to retailers specifically. And we already have 400 or 500 retailers that have this product and have purchased it over the last month before we launched it. So that's what, for us, like I said, what we think is next is a deep understanding of how to identify, engage with, and grab the consumer specific to your brand or your product.
Thank you, Gary. My background is more beauty, wellness, luxury. It's an industry I've been covering for 25 years. What's fascinating to me is some of the growth spurts and growth pains that those three industries have experienced as they've gone from fairly niche 25 years ago to universal today. Can be seen and also can be viewed as opportunities for the cannabis market. So right now you have a very prime Zennial consumer who isn't necessarily as obsessed with price point. She'll spend $500 on a Dyson blow dryer. She'll spend $200 on an Augustinus Bader serum, and not, you know, and maybe save elsewhere. But she's okay at spending more on things that she knows works. She wants you to meet you. She wants you to meet her where she is. So it's no longer the department store Sephora's. She's open to shopping online. She's open to shopping at boutiques. So that's something to think about, and we'll talk about today when we talk about dispensaries and retail. She's also not afraid to try something new. So she's at home microneedling. She's at home trying devices. She's okay with things that maybe take a little bit longer. So don't be afraid to present something to her that she hasn't seen before. She'll truly embrace it. So it's exciting to see that this consumer is so ready for all of your products. And the rest of the panel today, they're all innovators in a very unique sector. So I'm really excited for you to meet them and hear what they have to say. Could each of you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company and your brand, and how you kind of came into this industry?
Absolutely. Is this on? Yes, it is. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Coco Meers, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Equilibria. And Equilibria is a modern support system for women. So we offer all of our members one-on-one wellness coaching through our telehealth model with accompanying premium cannabinoid-led supplement routines, and then offer all of those members a community of like-minded women with whom to share privately and confidentially what's really going on with their minds and their lives and their bodies. So as you are both talking about the importance of the consumer and meeting her where she is, and kind of this next phase and the evolution of this progressive industry from just CBD or THC to a full-fledged CPG, beauty, wellness, health, more mainstream industry, I just feel so lucky every day that we have had such close relationships with the women that we serve. It very much bolsters our team and our outlook on where we should go next, because of that very direct DTC-enabled relationship. So a little bit about us and more to come.
Ashley?
Hi, I'm Ashley, a co-founder and CEO of Fleur Marché. We are recently have become a brand, which I'll talk about, but we really are trying to democratize and make wellness, plant-based wellness, more accessible to Gen Z and young millennial audiences who don't yet think about wellness as a necessity in everyday life. And when I say make it more accessible, that's from certainly a price perspective, but also, more importantly, format perspective and a communications perspective. Making this just something that's easy for them to understand, easy for them to use, especially if they don't value it as a necessity in daily life. How do we create products that they want to use anyway, that feel fun or interesting or effective? The way we came to this is that we launched as a marketplace and spent the better part of 3 years looking at every product on the market, understanding where the white space was, understanding how the consumers were engaging with these products, where they were confused, where the pain points lied, having in-depth conversations with them as we traveled across the country, selling in their living rooms, as well as online, and then figuring out how do you best serve that consumer. And I appreciate, obviously, what Coco says, and also what David was saying. I think oftentimes in the wellness and more scientific categories, we approach product from a perspective of, oh, this is great for you. Look at all the innovation I've done. Look at all the insights I have, as opposed to thinking about what does the consumer actually need? Like, what does she want? What does she need? What is she actually looking for? Rather than just being given a lot of statistics about why something is good for her. So that's sort of how we approach our business. And we were also recently acquired by Equilibria, so we're very happy to be part of this.
We're covering her from all corners.
Rudy?
Fascinating. Hi, everyone. My name is Rudy Ellenbogen. I'm the CEO of Planta Scientific. We're a Miami-based innovation and manufacturing lab for cannabinoid ingredients for CPG companies. We started these 2 years ago, understanding that the supply chain for CBD and minor cannabinoids was broken. That the ingredients that were being supplied for contract manufacturers to make products at scale were not meeting the standards of traditional good manufacturing practices. And we're here to solve that through our patented nanotechnology. I'll speak a little bit more about that. I come from the THC side. I was CEO and managing partner of an award-winning cultivation facility in Colorado called Verde Natural, and an extraction company called DabLogic.
David?
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Salinas. I'm the co-founder of HUUE. HUUE is a cannabis lifestyle brand that was born out of a technology platform. So in the inhalant space in cannabis, the healthiest way to inhale the flower is dry flower vaporization. But it's also the least popular. And solving that problem means you have to be customer obsessed. We have to understand why people are not adopting this particular modality. So we focused on that problem and all the problems associated with that, and basically took the issues with taste, the issues with convenience, the issues that people have with time to get into the product, and we basically were able to remove all of those barriers by creating a compressed puck. Once we were able to do that, we went into the market and we went with a test and learn methodology in Massachusetts to understand what we have to do next to get adoption, and that's where we're at today. But we're really excited from the platform perspective because we're able to now introduce all types of modalities or targeted effects for customers. So it's a really exciting time to be in the space, in inhalants. So.
Thank you. Gary told me this amazing stat the other day, which is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's 85% of dispensary consumers.
85% of dispensary visitors are male.
And then what's the second half?
85% of online direct-to-consumer purchasers are female.
So that was fascinating to me, and it really opens up the conversation of where the dispensary is today. I personally feel there's been a bit of a devolution in some of the mainstream dispensaries that aren't quite offering as many options to a consumer like me. So I'm excited to hear what each of you have to say about meeting the consumer where she is with what she wants when she wants it.
I can kick this one off because it's something that's near and dear to our heart. Emily asked us to share a little bit about how we got started, and I neglected to share that we got started when my co-founder and I came together. We're both serial technology entrepreneurs, but she had a life-changing experience. She's in the audience now. Hi, Marcy. A life-changing experience when she was in a kayaking accident and had a tremendous injury that her pharmaceutical meds were not treating. And all of us in this room and in this conference today have had those life-changing moments, or our customers have, or our partners have. So I know we are all emphatic about the power of this plant. But she then became so obsessed with the plant that she began leading meetup groups. And this is where women came in with just honest questions about, we maybe think that the industry is sort of progressing into mainstream CPG and that we've done our job of demystifying it. We haven't. There's still so much more education work to do. Marcy and our colleagues were holding physical meetup groups pre-COVID where women would drive in. We're headquartered in Chicago, from all over Illinois to say, is this gonna get me high? Is this legal? Do I use a suppository or a sublingual, or do I smoke it? 10 milligrams, microdose, megadose, nano, what? It's super confusing. There's modality, there's dosage, there's other functional ingredients. How does it work in the body? How's it possible that one ingredient, because of ECS physiology, which we all understand, could help me with sleep and stress and period pain? And, that sounds like bullshit. So, we knew that the industry didn't need another product. It desperately needed education. She was going into a dispensary environment, and a stoned, young, male bud tender, often called Jeremy, no offense to Jeremys, Chad wasn't talking to her about hot flashes, or lack of sleep, or anything else that was going on, medically with her body, and she was seeking a plant-based alternative to that. So, yeah, that's fact, that was a central premise, that women need more. This plant has so much potential to help her, and yet the current infrastructure in which she was finding high quality cannabinoids wasn't serving her. So we had to demystify in another way.
David, you had mentioned that you're kind of looking outside of the dispensary in Massachusetts. You're having this summer kind of out and about, meeting the consumer above ground in the sunshine. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's been a lot of things said already that, just buzzwords or things that are being talked about, like being obsessed with the flower. We need to be obsessed with the customer, right? The customer is not getting served well. All the media, the traditional sort of social medias are turned off towards cannabis, especially on the THC side. So it's really difficult to communicate, educate the people, not just women, but educated consumers, professionals that are looking for a product, whether it's low dose or otherwise. So going into the dispensaries is not working, right? You walk into, your point, whether it's Chad or Jeremy or someone with purple hair that's talking to somebody, they're pointing people to products that they like, which are dabs and really high strength products. And that's not the mainstream. That's not the mainstream market or the non-consumer we were talking about before. The non-consumer right now is looking for low dose. The reason why people get ruined in this cannabis industry is because they get overdosed. One bad experience and they're gone. They're not coming back. So we know what everyone wants, but there's a giant chasm between getting them there. So we decided to push our efforts out of the dispensary, go to other places for education, yoga studios that are 420 friendly, and create experiences outside. So our summer is going to be dedicated towards those experiences now, to show people that there is a product for them that is low dose, because when they find it, they love it. And the people that try it that are high tolerance, whether it's the media or the bud tenders or otherwise, are just like, oh, this product's not for me, and then it just gets pushed away. So we have to try and figure out new ways to communicate with those consumers, or, I mean, this is going to hold back the industry for quite a bit of time. Just walking around New York City, the dispensaries that are already open are selling 1,000 milligram gummies right now. That we just saw them yesterday. Yeah,
It's a mic drop.
Yeah, done. So there's a big problem right now, and we're addressing it in that way in the Massachusetts market to start.
And can I add something on
Please,
that?
Rudy.
I'm making a little bit of a conversation. I think that is so true, and it goes with the trend of individualized medicine, right? People want to take things for themselves, that work for themselves, and not something so general that I take a pill, it's gonna take my pain, it's gonna take my stress and everything, right? So when we are thinking about a product that delivers on the promise efficaciously, I think science is critical. If you can have a product that has controlled effect, that has not just faster onset, but controlled onset, right? How much do you want your experience with an edible to last? It's critical, right? Where do you want it to work? So if it's localized, that's why we're focusing on transdermal to start, because you can localize a lot of the effect. I love edibles personally, but I think for the masses and for people new to the experiences with cannabis, science and research-backed science. There's primary research and there's genetic testing that's being done with markers to actually not just be able to make claims, but also to make sure that you're delivering on a promise and an experience that can be consistent for customers.
So in this consumer report that you read, one of the data points, and that's why I'm here. I don't know anything about lipstick or mergers, but I'm here to talk about the data. But one of the biggest data points that we saw was 51% of all of the respondents talked about the number one reason for them to come into the market or to try cannabis for the first time is an understanding of the effect. Right? And you talked about that, Coco, and everybody's talked about that. It's really important that as we make these products, right, as you were saying, as we make these products, that we understand what the consumer wants in the first place. You know, you brought up a great data point that, you know, 42% of people say that they want dosage for THC under 10 milligrams, which is definitely not what's in the market right now. And it's even difficult to track the data at anything under 10 milligrams, because the packages that are out there, you know, and the things that are actually being sold, you know, through the bud tenders are much higher dosages. And so, again, you know, and you both, Emily and Coco, was talking, the consumer is a woman. And guys, the consumer is a woman, right? So this is the holy grail of consumers in CPG are women between 30 and 55 years old. The holy grail, you know, highly educated, you know, run the family, you know, spending. That's the same consumer we're going to end up chasing in this market. And so the faster that we understand her, and the faster we understand how to make her entry safe, educated, and a good experience, right? The faster we're going to grow as a market.
So I was going to add, I think I completely agree. I think as someone who has spent my career marketing to women, as well as my co-founder, I think the data is really important. The science is really important as table stakes, certainly. And I think that that's what the industry needs to evolve. But speaking to everyone here, if you want to build a brand that is accepted as a wellness, beauty, or lifestyle brand, I do think there needs to be a fundamental shift in the strategic thinking about communications. You need to start talking to the customer as if you were a beauty, wellness, or lifestyle brand, not a cannabis-first brand. And it might be a controversial thing to say in this room, but I think one of the mistakes that's been made has been, we talk a lot about it, and this is slightly different for traditional cannabis versus CBD, even though I do think it applies. Talking about dosage and sort of like the more technical aspects up front, and that's a real distinction, just up front. The first point of entry, I do think needs to be, as you're saying, it's benefits. It's what you need to talk about it like it's a skincare product. Is it going to help with wrinkles? Is it going to help you? Is it going to replace a glass of wine when you get home and have to tuck your kids in? And I think that has to be the point of entry, because if we learned early on, if you're going to talk about this new ingredient, and then you're going to say, and there's a dropper, and you only take half a dropper if you want 10 milligrams, but if you want 20 milligrams, you take a full dropper, and then not totally clear how it's going to make you feel different, but like, it's good. I mean, they're gone. And also, it's expensive, right? And I think pricing is having a sea change, which is great. But I do think the first point of entry needs to be like, what will this do for you? How will it improve your life in a very specific way? It doesn't do everything. My product does this one thing. You use it this time for this reason, and it will help you. And then I think there is time, once you get them in, to start doing what Equilibria has done so well. Start talking about the science, start talking about why, start getting into the nuance and personalization that's really important. But I think, David, what you're doing in cannabis is really smart. It's the same concept. Go to where they already are. Go to a yoga studio, because we understand yoga and why we're doing that and how it makes us feel. All of that association, I think, is really important. I think that cannabis first, if you're targeting this female audience, is you're gonna continue to hit a brick wall.
Yeah, I agree. Rudy, we were talking before about looking at innovations through delivery systems. Other than transdermal, what are you looking at right now?
Well, the basis for us is drop-in technology. When contract manufacturers received the cannabinoid ingredients today for mass market, they're receiving isolate, CBD isolate, and other minors, CBN, CBG isolates. CBD isolate has a particle size naturally of 4,400 nanometers. That is just something that doesn't mix evenly as it comes with their other ingredients. And what's the problem of that? Manufacturers now need to go through a number of steps, heating basically to turn the isolate into an oil so they can mix it and get it to an even form. That's not the standard of contract manufacturing. That doesn't work. And that's a big part of the reason why many products with CBD don't actually work and deliver on their promise. And so people may try a product once or twice, but if it's not working, they're not going to buy it again, right? Even if we understand their problem. And so for us, drop-in technology comes with nanotechnology. Because when you're reducing the particle size from 4,000 nanometers to 100, then you have a product that's stable, you have an ingredient that can be easily mixed with the other ingredients, and you're reducing costs, you're reducing risk, you have a much safer and controlled experience that can actually help you deliver on your promise and do like what the client wants from you, right? But the supply chain is broken, and that's what we're fixing at Planta Scientific.
Thank you. And so we talked a lot about the state of right now. I'd love for each of you to really just ruminate on what you see coming down the pipe, either in the next year, next 5 years, even next 10 years. Gary?
And so the question I get asked the most on this is, when's legalization coming? So I'm not even going to touch that. But truly, I think for us, there are a couple of things. Some of the concentration in the market on cannabis first, right, over the last few years has also been driven, and we don't think about this much, but it's also been driven by funding sources, right? Because the people who are going to fund us are people who believe in cannabis or believe that there is money to be made in cannabis, but they're not mainstream, the mainstream private equity firms. And those are coming in. So sorry to answer what's next. Those are coming in. And I think when those types of more mainstream funding sources, larger funding sources come into the industry, they're going to ask scientific questions. They're going to ask consumer questions. They're not going to ask how much THC is in your product, because they're not going to know what the hell that means. I also do think, and not to sound like a broken record, I can't say it enough, and we have been saying it for a long time, that normalization has come before legalization, and if we believe that to be true, then we have to spend the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years really understanding how to safely onboard about 90 million consumers that are sitting on the sidelines right now that want to come into this market. If we want to be a $200 billion market, we have to get all of those consumers safely into the market, get them to trust the market, and deliver on the product, deliver them products that they expect of us.
Speaking of delivering on those expectations, again, all of us are believers in cannabinoids, or we wouldn't be here. But there is still, on the CBD side, FDA lack of clarity. There's still, tremendous difficulty, although many innovators here are solving this, but around claims making and lack of, substantiated research. So, one thing that we're seeing is what does it mean to combine this sort of progressive plant-based therapy category of cannabinoids with others that have also been around for millennia, and these kind of combination SKUs against which you can make claims, against which the problem-benefit equation is just easier because, ashwagandha already is associated with calm, right? But what are those, we are so focused, maniacally focused on education, and we've got to be prepared to answer the question to our members who will ask our wellness coaches, but how do these work together? How really do CBD, all the other rare and minors, functional mushrooms, adaptogens, nootropics, the whole range of progressive plant-based therapies now together service in this kind of bigger meta entourage effect? Who's doing that research? And I think that's what we're going to see is this whole functional space as not just the category of cannabinoids, but the category of all of these progressive plant-based therapies coming together. What's the safe, research-backed routine that's appropriate for different needs, but when we're considering them in concert? So that's different than just educating people on CBD.
I agree. I really agree. Obviously, I'm very aligned. I've been thinking for a while, is the way to make for CBD to truly fulfill its potential, its market potential that we've all been talking about for so long. If only there was legalization, is the way to do it actually to approach CBD. And David, you said this on our pre-call, but really is a really valuable ingredient, but not a category in and of itself. And again, I'm blowing up anything here. I apologize, but I think CBD's legs get much longer, like the long tail gets longer if we start to shift our own thinking about like, let's build this up as a premium ingredient that when used in concert with other premium plant-based ingredients like mushrooms and adaptogens and nootropics, really can make like the sum of its parts much bigger and it's stronger. And CBD is like the hero there, but it's not just the only guy in the room, gal in the room. Sorry. And I do think, like you were saying, it's going to be omega-6. I say hyaluronic acid because again, beauty lens, guys. But like, if we could do that, can we just extend the life of this as opposed to seeing this like boom and bust industry that feels like 2019 was like the best and worst year for everyone, right? And I think if we can really start to focus on like CBD as this hero as opposed to like a standalone star, that's a weird nuance, but anyway, like you get what I'm saying. I think that's how we increase the long tail.
I agree. I think it's a conversation about all cannabinoids. I don't think it's CBD or CBN or THC. I think inside we have our endocannabinoid system, our receptors, and we just need to work on the ensemble effect, right? There's the entourage effect, following the plant in its natural form and harnessing how it comes from nature, and that's crafty and that's beautiful and it's in my heart. That's where I come from before this. But then we went to another extreme, which is isolate just CBD or just CBN or just THC distillate or isolate. And man, the anxiety with THC-only products is a problem for a lot of consumers. And so ensemble effect means that you are using different cannabinoids and mixing it into a formula to create a more balance. It's not gonna be perfect as in nature, but hey, nature doesn't give you CBN in those concentrations that you wanna put in products, or CBG. And so that's where I see these contract manufacturing really going up to the next level. And then the second thing is on the claim side. I agree, a big problem has been not being able to make claims. And we're based in Florida because that actually allows us to go beyond what most places allow, especially if you sell direct to consumer outside Florida too. And so there is a new set of products that I see coming with claims that are perfectly legal within the regulatory framework and within the FDA, and those are gonna just hit the consumer directly, and that's what's gonna draw the large CPG companies. And so the last thing I'll say is, if you're a brand and you're building this, try to align with the supply chain so you can be acquired later on, because when the large CPG, if that's your exit idea or one of them, then because when they come, they want to integrate you seemingly, and that's just going to help a lot better for you to exit.
David?
So as far as what's coming, I'll talk about how it relates to our innovations and where we're going. We're very excited, very bull on the company, obviously. In the cannabis space, the largest part of the market is the inhalant space. The combustible side is not sustainable. We saw what happened with tobacco. It will happen here, especially when we have all these pulmonary issues right now. Everybody's got a dry cough. It doesn't go away. The last thing you want to do is bring this into your lungs. But the onset and the entourage effect and all of the things that are associated with good cannabis are really well served in an inhalant format. So focusing in that area was really important for us. So I'm just going to give a quick education on dry herb vaporization. To date, you've had to take fresh flower, grind it, pinch it out, different dose every single time, put it into a machine. Those machines are getting innovated on all the time, the devices. There's 100 of them in the marketplace. No one's really focused on the flower itself, the plant, and what could be done with that. So our process really looked at that particular thing, and through scalable compression, which is really difficult to do, that we've solved for now and mastered, now we're able to create formulas. So now we're able to take the different minors and other plants and actually blend them. So the future for us and where we think it's going is going to be able to take those blends, not just that we formulate, but that the market formulates or people formulate on the personalized side, and then compress them into pucks and create an inhalant that is quick onset, and really can solve problems for people on the spot. That's where we're really focused on that. So our platform is going to be key, and that's I think that's where we're laser focused on that part of the market. And if we can get adoption, I think we can really make a dent in it.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was in one of your stats, it was that non-consumers are a little, although the flower is the #1 point of entry currently, non-consumers aren't really interested in ingestibles and they want to go and look into topicals and other things. We have time for some audience questions, so I'd love to open it up to anybody in the audience if you have questions for our panel.
Come on.
Did anybody bring coffee?
It's Friday morning.
I'm always curious on assumptions that you had going into a situation that were proven wrong, and what did you do? So love for anyone to answer. So Coco, it looks like you got a good example.
Well, I mean, I'm always wrong, you know? Entrepreneurship is just, I think, accepting where you were wrong and then smartly and quickly executing around those learnings and those insights. Where were we wrong? We were wrong about so many things. I'll just take you through a couple almost failure points, but we're still growing, and that's good. We thought in the beginning, because daily use, this is something we haven't said out loud, but hopefully obvious, like this is not Xanax. You don't take it after you've had an anxiety attack and it calms you down. It's a prophylactic, really. You're taking it, it's building up in your system. It's sort of the basis of ECS physiology. So, which is why the only reason, I mean, nothing's more annoying than a subscription model that you don't need to subscribe to. We are only a subscription company because daily habit is really important to efficacy and long-term outcomes. So we assumed in the beginning of our business model that everybody would just know that and would just subscribe to CBD, this brand new category that they never heard of. Well, that was really dumb. You know, so our, you know, we now offer, you know, just a normal e-commerce transaction, but then are working with our coaches to graduate people to understand the fact that this really has to be taken daily. So habits of usage, one area. I think we also assumed that, you know, banking and the normalization of liquidity sources and capital partners would happen more quickly than it has. There was never a scarier summer than when we lost payment processing. I'm sure, like all of us in the room, all of us have been kicked off of social media and we've lost our payment processing, and you know, it's a really dark, dark, dark day when all of those recurring revenue transactions that you were about to charge, you know, you no longer have any revenue whatsoever because you've got to switch your payment processor. So many assumptions. Also assumed that, you know, FDA clarity would be here by now, and it's not. So more pivoting and learning.
We're a data and technology company, and you talk about learning. Early on, we decided that, you know, we were going to need to get data from POS systems. And the POS systems back in 2015, 2016, 2017 weren't very nice. And they weren't playing nice with us. So we built a POS system and hired a sales staff. We were going to give this POS system away for free. That was our hook, right? We're going to give it away to the market. Remember this? We're going to give it away to the market for free. And we did actually hire a young sales staff to go knock on doors and give away our life-saving POS system. We didn't get one client. Not one. Like, we couldn't give the damn thing away. And we spent a couple $1 million in about a year building it, and our investors were not really happy with us about when we pulled the plug, but it literally could not give just couldn't give a thing away. And so, you know, what it taught us was, you know, the only way, just like we're talking about with consumers, for a company like us, the only way for us to be successful in the market is to garner the trust of everybody who's in the market and really work on building those relationships and understanding, right? I didn't walk into a dispensary and say, hey, what's wrong with your POS system? If I gave you one that fixed that and it was free, would you buy it? I just built one and we just built one and decided we were going to save the world. So definitely, you know, not having some sort of savior complex in what we do, and listen and really go, just as we were talking about the actual consumers and her needs, but the customers, the B2B customers, listen to the customer. If they want something, they're going to tell you, and if they don't build it.
Any other questions?
Hello, Sean Gold from Pilgrim Soul. Someone up there mentioned claims as an issue, and it's certainly an issue. When as CBD sort of bridged legality, there were a bunch of class action lawsuits that popped up because people were making claims and there was no real research behind it because you couldn't really do the research. So how are you, anybody on the panel, how are you hedging this? How are you sort of hacking this, being able to make the claims, protect yourself legally? And if anybody's in THC, it would be interesting to hear, what you're thinking there, because the same thing will probably happen again.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm not talking about the THC side. I'm talking about CBD and minors. And specifically, there is an easier path for cosmetics rather than ingestibles. And so the way we are approaching this is with primary research-based genetic testing. And so genetic markers allow for actual data that supports claims. Now, that doesn't mean you can do anything and everything. Each state is a little different, so you also have to think about that. But I come from the regulated side, and I understand compliance and the risks of that, not following the rules. And it's a very complex space, but if you have a good lawyer and you understand what you can do and not do in different states, you can take advantage of science to make claims.
We get asked this question a lot because with having a consumer database, the whole purpose of it is to attach brands with consumers. And I don't have a very popular opinion about this in this industry. There isn't a hack. Right? We're going to operate inside the regulations and inside the box that they put us in, and we're going to have to figure it out. And I think one of the ways we do that is as a brand, and I saw your branding on your products, very developed, very professional, very, very well communicated, and we rely on building that trust with the consumer, not by having to make claims. Listen, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are medical claims to be made eventually. But the question, when I came in the industry 6 years ago, and the first panels I sat on was a marketing panel, and how do you get around Google? How do you get around social media? You don't. You just simply don't. And you were talking about the boom and the bust of 2019. If you're lucky enough to get through it for a month, it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you because you're going to make a lot of money, and then you're never going to make any money again. And so it's really, my advice to people would be really take the time again, understand the consumer, how to communicate with the consumer, and then do it ethically. Because if you try to hack it, the results are going to be horrendous.
I think there's a couple sides to the market too. There's a lot of people talk about education. The truth of the matter is, with consumer product goods, there's people that my analogy is wine. There's people that just grab the glass and drink it, and there's people that sniff the cork for 10 minutes and talk about the black currants and the tobacco and the chocolate smells and tastes and all of that. The cannabis space is very similar. There are people that get into the terp profiles and all of that stuff. Those are the cork sniffers. And there are a lot of people, right? And then there are a lot of people that
I'm going to work that into a meeting next week somehow. Where are my cork sniffers?
And then there are a lot of people, and our research shows a lot of people that don't give a damn. The strain game is not the future of the business. They don't care about the terp profiles or the minors or anything like that. They just care about what's it going to do. If you can communicate that simply and ethically, I think that you can drive a lot of consumers. They really don't care. They just want to pick it up, show up, get it done, and that's it. No cork sniffing, no nothing. So there's a combination, and finding that combination and the communication style and the medium and so on and so forth is really the magic that we all have to work together as an industry to make happen. But I think it's happening slowly. It just takes time.
Where we started was results driven, right? If you can tell somebody what it's going to do, right? Not that it's going to cure cancer or anything like that.
Or COVID.
Or COVID, yeah, right, or COVID.
Evidence does show it has blood.
Yeah, there was a product on the market a few years ago, Lucid Moods. I don't know if anybody remembers that, right? And when I came into this industry, a little personal, I don't like cannabis at all. And my team tried. It just doesn't work for me. I have no problem with it, obviously. But Lucid Moods did, right? When I found that Lucid Moods vape, you know, and it said energy, and I tried it, I had energy. Right? When it said fun, I was, you know, and so those are, and I am the lowest common denominator in the room because I don't give a crap about the science or about the strain or anything like that. I want to buy a product. I want to buy a product that if it tells me that it's going to give me energy, I want it to give me energy. And if it does that, I love the product. If it doesn't, I won't do it again.
The one thing I'll say about claims too is that there's a difference between medical claims and structure function claims. All of them are not okay, technically. However, medical claims real bad. All of them real bad. But in terms of structure function claims, which means that you're saying, it's what we're saying, like, what does the product do? If you even say what the product will do for you, that is a structure function claim. But if you can be creative and make as many illusions as possible, I think you buy yourself some cover. So avoiding saying it, never use the word cure, never use the word heal, but if you can say, here's the situation in which you use this. That's actually, if you can say, like, use this instead of a glass of wine, that's actually not a structure function claim. That's just telling them how to use it, and they can make their own assumption about what it'll do. And so that's where I think if we can all start trying to do that a little bit more, like, get really specific. And that's why I think in terms of product choice and merchandising, if you can create products that are more specific and niche, you actually protect yourself more against claims that are going to get you in trouble, because you can describe the situation or the mood you might be feeling or whatever it is, and you can get around the tricky territory, which is the FDA is really coming down on people who are saying things that could be harmful to people.
Well, thank you. I want to thank everybody for being here again. Give a nice round of applause for our panelists.